What's up, Taiwan? I'm Ethan Liu with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. President Lai Ching-te has led memorials marking the 66th anniversary of the second Taiwan Strait crisis. The conflict on the outlying islands off China's coast left hundreds dead and was the last major battle between China and Taiwan. Rick Lauer has more from Kinmen.
Praying for those that died for their country. Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te leads a memorial for what's known as the Second Taiwan Strait Crisis, the last major battle between China and Taiwan 66 years ago.
如果不是当年你们有决心、团结一致、不妥协、不受分化，打赢这场胜仗，台湾不可能有今天这个情况。所以面对中国的威胁， 我们不必忧伤危机，我们就只有一个目标：捍卫国家主权。
Hundreds died here on Taiwan's Kinmen Islands that lie just kilometers from the Chinese coast. The Chinese communists hoped their 1958 offensive would be a stepping stone to taking the rest of Taiwan and finishing off the nationalists that had retreated there after losing the Chinese Civil War in 1949. All across these islands, cemeteries, bullet holes, craters and military bunkers are clear reminders of China's attempts to take this land by force. Though people here fought off China's invasion more than 60 years ago, China never renounced its claims to Kinmen and the rest of Taiwan. Now these islands are once again finding themselves on the front line of China's aggression. China has been sending fishing boats and Coast Guard vessels into waters here.
China Coast Guard 14608, adjust your course and leave our restricted waters immediately.
Normalizing its presence in areas administered by Taiwan and chipping away at its sovereignty. Lai, who was elected earlier this year, strongly rejects Beijing's narrative and says the country must be prepared to defend itself once again from its belligerent neighbor. Lai's anti-China message doesn't necessarily resonate in Kinmen. People here generally prefer closer ties with China. But this trip to Kinmen on a particularly sensitive date for both sides of the strait is the closest he's got to China since he took office.
Lai's visit also challenges the People's Republic of China's claim that Kinmen, like the rest of Taiwan, comes under the jurisdiction. He's showing that he can do whatever he wants within Taiwan's jurisdiction, and there's nothing that Beijing can do about it.
In Kinmen, Lai is telling his fellow countrymen that the sacrifices made to defend Taiwan will not be forgotten. But his presence here also sends another message to China, that he is the leader of a country resolute in standing up for its freedom. Chris Ma and Rick Lauer in Kinmen for TaiwanPlus.
There has been a surge in Chinese military activity around the country, with China sending almost 70 military planes near Taiwan. Jaime Ocon has this update.
Taiwan is reporting a high number of Chinese military aircraft operating around the country. In the past 2 days, Taiwan has recorded 68 Chinese planes flying around the country. But we're going to look at activity from the past 24 hours. Now, the Defense Ministry says that 41 aircraft were spotted operating around Taiwan as of 6 a.m. Friday morning, as well as 7 Navy ships also operating in the area. Now, flying a little bit closer to Taiwan are 32 Chinese military aircraft that breached Taiwan's air defense identification zone. That's this box right here that surrounds the country. Now, this zone doesn't really belong to Taiwan, but it's used by the military as a defensive buffer. Now, what's interesting about this incursion is that it comes just 1 day after a U.S. guided missile destroyer sailed and transited through the Taiwan Strait in what it calls a freedom of navigation exercise. This means that the United States isn't afraid of sending ships so close to China and that can sail anywhere within international waters. Now, for more on why this activity is significant, I spoke to Ben Lewis. He's a security analyst based in D.C. that tracks Chinese military activity around Taiwan.
Well, I think it is significant. For one, the number we're talking about is well above average. 32 should be considered a kind of a major incursion into the ADIZ. And it comes kind of in the face of one President Lai's visit to Kinmen for the anniversary of the A-23 artillery battle of the Second Taiwan Strait crisis. And it also comes immediately following a U.S. warship transiting the Taiwan Strait. But kind of in the broader scheme of things, in the last 3.5 months since President Lai took office, there's been an unprecedented surge in Chinese military activity around Taiwan. So we have now surpassed the yearly record for the number of Chinese aircraft tracked inside the ADIZ. That was 1,738 in 2022. With tonight's report, we're up to over 1,770. So we've blown past that record, and it looks like we're not going to stop anytime soon.
You also mentioned this U.S. warship transit in the Taiwan Strait. What was the United States trying to signal to China with this operation, and why was China upset with this?
Well, all Taiwan Strait transits are intended to signal the same thing, whether U.S. ships or U.S. and allies and partners or just other states in general, which we've seen this year. And that's the Taiwan Strait is international waters at the end of the day. And all states have the right to transit through international waters. Now, China doesn't feel that way. China, views that the Taiwan Strait is an internal body of water for China because they claim Taiwan as part of the People's Republic of China. And so it is viewed as inherently escalatory when the U.S. sends ships to the Taiwan Strait, but in all reality, under international law, it's a completely justifiable thing to do.
Now, as Ben mentioned in that interview, we're seeing a significant spike in Chinese military activity since President Lai Ching-te took office in May of 2024. So we can see this upward trajectory of military aircraft around Taiwan. Now, Taiwan has reported more than 1,000 Chinese planes in the span of these 3 months. And so while the military here is trying to figure out how to manage that, it doesn't look like that activity is going to let up anytime soon.
That was Jaime Ocon explaining China's ramped-up military intimidation of Taiwan. A small charter plane carrying 9 people has crashed in Thailand. The plane had just taken off from Bangkok for a short flight to a resort in eastern Strait province when it lost contact with ground control 11 minutes later. Local authorities say all those on board died in the Thursday afternoon crash, including 5 tourists from China and 4 Thai nationals. Investigators are still looking into the cause of the accident. Heavy monsoon rains have inundated northern Thailand, killing 5 people and injuring dozens. The flooding has affected more than 12,000 households, with waist-deep rainwater flowing through the streets and submerging farmland across the region. Thailand experiences heavy seasonal rain every year, but climate change is making extreme weather patterns more severe. 5,000 signatures in 60 days. That's the goal of campaigners who have launched the petition calling on Taiwan to allow foreigners to become Taiwanese without giving up their own passports. Louis Watt was at the campaign launch event.
Should Taiwan make it easier for foreigners to gain citizenship? Campaigners here in Taipei say yes, arguing that it will help Taiwan deal with an aging society as well as talent shortages. To become Taiwanese, most foreigners have to give up their nationality. Many foreign residents have long said this is unfair because Taiwanese are allowed to hold dual nationality.
What we are doing for our Dual Nationality Taiwan campaign is ultimately a call for legislative reform.
This event has been organized by Crossroads, a non-profit pushing Taiwan to become more international. Speakers include legislators from Taiwan's 2 main parties and long-term foreigners sharing their own fights for citizenship.
Letting go of one identity to fully embrace another is a choice that no one should have to make, because it's a choice that divides rather than unites.
Campaigners here, along with the Canadian, Australian, New Zealand and French Chambers of Commerce and others, are urging people to sign a petition, calling on the government to overturn the rule that permanent residents must renounce their original citizenship. They say for the good of Taiwan's development and security, this change is needed. Klein Wong and Louise Watt in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
China is allowing more tourists to visit part of Taiwan, ending years of travel restrictions. Fujian province has resumed processing visas for independent and group travelers visiting the Matsu Islands, which are just off its coast. But Beijing's restrictions on tourism to other parts of Taiwan remain in place. Officials from Taiwan's Kinmen Islands, which are also close to China, have traveled to Beijing to discuss the ban. They say they're hopeful they will see tourists again soon. Taiwan's government has welcomed the developments.
政府欢迎更多的陆客到金门马祖旅游，这个是我们再三表示过的。陈委员这个行程我们也都知道。那如果陈委员此行有任何进展，就是能够让陆客来到金门的话，我们都非常乐见。
President Lai Ching-te aims to increase Taiwan's average lifespan by 3 years. The goal is part of a new long-term care plan for the country.
我们也将启动健康台湾深耕计划，投入经费支持全国各级医疗机构培育人才，以及发展智慧医疗。
Health officials hope to meet the needs of an aging society with a long-term care plan to improve elderly health care and welfare. Taiwan is set to become a super-aged society by next year, when nearly a fifth of its population will be at least 65 years old. Taiwan could soon be known as an AI island. The National Science and Technology Council revealed plans to invest more than $1 billion into AI technologies. The plan aims to connect chip and tech sectors across southern Taiwan to form a new AI industrial base. The council says integrating AI into the existing tech industry will increase its value tenfold.
可以用更少的人，可以做得更好，做更多的事情。科技业将来也可以摆脱只帮国外做代工，利润微薄。如果跟我们的应用端结合，有一些很多创新系统，它的价值更高的话，它的利润会更高。
A team of sign language instructors has opened a summer camp for children. Here they learn both how to protect themselves and how to appreciate deaf culture. Zhang Mentris has the story.
突然发现，原来哥哥摸他的这件事啊，其实是违法的。
This summer, sign language instructor and women's rights activist Zheng Xinyi has thrown herself into a special project. She's brought together 26 hearing children and 4 deaf or hearing-impaired children together for a sign language summer camp with a purpose. Over 3 days, the children learn important life lessons through stories, both narrated aloud and interpreted into sign language. In this case, a story based on Ms. Zheng's own story of sexual assault. The lesson is how children can protect themselves.
要保护自己，提防坏人，可以去找警察，还有老师。
人做你不喜欢的事情要勇敢大声说不，然后不要去害怕说会有人责备你之类的，然后相信他会受到法律的制裁。
The camp's founder says lessons like this are especially important for students who are either deaf or have limited hearing.
所以如果他们可以都知道这样的事情的话，我觉得是有帮助的。再加上聋孩子他们接受资讯的是薄弱的，所以我其实希望更多的聋人来参加。
But this is just one of the lessons this camp hopes to teach its young participants. One of the most important things teachers hope kids will walk away with is an appreciation of sign language and deaf culture in general. Joseph Wu and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
A team at a historic military village in western Taiwan has discovered new evidence of its use during the Japanese colonial period.
修车的一个车道的一个车沟，好，那这个都是当时在日据时期战争的时候所建设的一个临时设施虽然是临时设施，但是也展现了当时的一个历史的一个脉络对无尾建国政策未来的整体规划以及发展具有特殊的意义。
A group doing restoration work at the Zhenguo Military Dependence Village in Yunlin County found the remains unexpectedly. The settlement was used by the militaries of both Japan and later the KMT to house their dependents. The village was largely abandoned after the Cold War. Excavation of the site is ongoing. Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website and follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Before we sign off, check out these striking night shots of a volcano erupting in Iceland. I'm Ethan. Take care, and I'll see you next time.